All right, here we are, live from Boca Raton Kabbalah Center. Happy Spiritual Sunday. We're here to change consciousness. We know the first thing that we do every Sunday is our affirmation. What is affirmation? You know, it's interesting. I don't remember when we spoke about it last, but there's some of you are old enough to remember the placebo effect. Yes? Or you've heard of psychosomatic illness. What does that mean? If you and I, as students in the Kabbalah Center now, we're asking ourselves, what is that really telling us about people, about really even spirituality, the spiritual rules of the universe? Placebo effect, psychosomatic illness is saying what? Mind over matter. That what goes on in the head of a person will actually manifest in physicality. Of course, now you come to Kabbalah and we say, yes, you're controlling the universe and you decide what's going on in your life. So, oh, no, not me. It's everybody else. But you go back, science has been telling us for many, many years the placebo effect. In fact, the Rav wrote about it. I wish I could remember which book it was. But there was a very famous story that the Rav used, back in maybe the 60s or 70s. There was one guy with dying of cancer, was at the end, so they gave him a placebo. He didn't know it was, obviously, but they said, look, this is a new cancer drug. It's, remarkable. It could heal you. So he took saline solution, basically, and guess what happened to his tumor? Disappeared. Years and years and years. He's cancer-free, 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 cancer-free. And this is what the Rav wrote. Then, whatever it was, 15, 20 years later, he read in a news story somewhere that what he had taken was just a placebo. That this thing that, this drug they were testing, whatever, was a complete failure. Guess what happened? His tumor came back. Mind over matter. And this is why we start every week, and the whole purpose of Kabbalah is to shift our consciousness to make use in a proactive, positive way of this power we have of mind over matter. So let me make sure you got it here. There we go. And those of you who are following us online, make sure you can see it. Okay, and let's just say it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. The more we put that in our consciousness, the more eventually we're going to, one aspect that we don't often talk about in our affirmation, miracles. Raise our consciousness to see the miracles and wonders of life, because we take so much for granted. Oh, let me just make sure this is off. If you went back 200-300 years and showed somebody a cell phone, what do you think they'd be telling you? Wow, if they didn't burn you as a witch or a warlock, they'd be pretty fascinated. I can't understand it. It's so. But today, we take for granted this miracle. I mean, some of us remember when there were no cell phones, no? Yeah. My kids don't, but there are people out there who do. And so it's a miracle, isn't it? Do you remember your first cell phone? Wow, miraculous. I can carry it with me. I don't have to worry about, missing a phone call or whatever. So we don't appreciate the miracles that happen to us on a daily basis. And yet the Kabbalists write that every day there are probably hundreds of miracles that take place that we have no awareness of. When you and I do something to truly change our spiritual DNA, change not only the consciousness, but the actions that follow, like we'll get into here in a minute. When you do that, and let's say a person did such an action of transformation that their tikkun, we call it, or karma, you might be more familiar with that term, their karma was to be in a car accident. Now they're driving down the street, they're coming to the intersection that they were supposed to have the car accident, but because they transformed their consciousness and basically energetically paid back whatever their karma was, their tikkun, and they just go right through the intersection, no accident, no nothing. How many people on earth today do you think actually have the awareness that a miracle just took place? That an accident was avoided? No, they went, wherever they were going, just like they always drive. Or people were supposed to be sick, and because of some transformation, they're not sick. Do they have a conscious awareness of that? No, because very few people on earth today can sense those types of things. And this is why in our affirmation, I made sure to include that as we raise our consciousness, we can see, we can perceive, we can sense in one way or another tremendous miracles that are happening to us all the time. And they don't have to be the ones like, the car went off the cliff, but somehow it floated down like a feather and hit the ground. No, it could be something simple. You didn't trip. You ever trip? You ever walk somewhere and trip and, skin a knee or something like that? Or worse? So would you not consider it a miracle if you didn't trip? Just a little thing. You didn't notice the curb or some little stone or whatever it was. After the fact, you say, that would have been miraculous. But when you're walking in through gravel and you don't fall, do you consider that miraculous? Mostly not. We just take it for granted. I walk carefully or whatever. But we don't really appreciate the miracles that are happening every day. And so I'd like to think what we're about to learn is going to be miraculous for all of us. So let's start with that because consciousness is everything. You ever made a mistake? Think of a time you made a mistake somewhere in the past. You have any regret, sadness, guilt, resentment? No? Okay, anybody there online? Does, right? We have these. So, and then what do we say? Oh, you think back, okay, I made that terrible mistake. 3 years later, you come to the awareness that you did that mistake because maybe at the time you didn't really see it was a mistake you made. And then you look back and now comes the guilt, now comes the regret, and you think to yourself, what can I do about it now? That was a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, etc. Right? So we leave it that way. Well, that's what I want us to understand. We're going to change that today to understand really through the illusion of time that we can fix everything. So like this, if the past, some of you know me, so you know how my mind works. If the past is really past and things already, transpired and you can't fix it and you can't do, how come then every one of us in one way or another will actively seek reparation, repayment? They did something nasty. I'm waiting for them to apologize. Okay, I've been waiting 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, right, for them to apologize. So you're still hurt, you're still resentful, whatever it is, for years and years and years, waiting for them to apologize. Why do you care? It's already passed. What difference would it make if they apologized after 2, 3 years? But we're all seeking it. Or sometimes the other way. The other person held something against us. And we're saying, I wish they would just allow me to apologize. Allow me to apologize. Allow me to apologize. Why? After all this time again, what difference? But you and I understand that it does make a difference. It would make a difference to us if they would ask forgiveness, if they would apologize to us. We'd say, okay, then we could go back to the way we were. Right? Okay, a few yeses here, right? Or the other way also. They're angry at us. We want that friendship back. We want to be, in the same type of relationship we had. If they would only let me apologize. If they would only, or even forgive me when I did apologize, then we could go back to the way it was. So we got to have consciousness, awaken our consciousness. The past is not necessarily the past. Otherwise, why do we inherently seek reparation, seek a repayment in some form? And then we'd say, we'll go back to the way it was. So here's a simple example to show you the illusion of time. And of course, the last 15, 20 years, a lot of people talking about that. The past, present, and the future. So let me just give you a very simple common experience. Spill something on the floor. Like I just did a few minutes ago. You spill something on the floor. You might say a few choice words that we can't say here on Facebook. Ha ha ha. Okay. You guys are in a good mood today, I see. So you say a few things, and then you take a paper towel and you go to wipe it up. Okay? Can everyone envision that? Now let me ask you the consciousness question. As you're wiping up the spill on the floor, in what frame of time are you actually, or frames of time, are you actually operating with? Many of us want to say, well, I'm doing it now. But when was the spill? Past. Past. When am I wiping it up with a towel? Now. And what am I improving after I've wiped it up? The future. So when you spill something and you wipe it up, you are dealing with all three, past, present, and future, at the same time. At the same time. So the Kabbalists teach us the illusion of time. When we say it's past, we didn't even go there. If it was 20 years ago, they did that thing to us. Why are we holding on to resentment for 20 years? Past is past. No, the past is here right now. Otherwise, you wouldn't still be holding the resentment, right? It would have gone away. Like a cold. You know, person catches a cold, they have to rest a few days. So the Rav used to say, you know, somebody would go to the Rav and say, you know, they need to rest in bed to get rid of the cold. And the Rav would look at it and say, really? Which mattress do you have? I didn't know that mattresses had healing powers. Right? But we have that idea, okay, we'll rest a little bit and then it'll go away. Right? The cold will go away. Well, then the same thing, shouldn't it be? If 15 years ago somebody hurt us and we're holding resentment, shouldn't it have gone away after 4, 5, 6, 10 years even? Why is it still there? Because there is no past. It's now. It's now. Every day for those 15, 20 years, we were holding into the now and therefore into the future that resentment, that hurt. So, Kabbalistically, and this I have to write, this for me, I be honest with you, was an amazing revelation, at least the way I wrote it. Kabbalistically, time is the distance between cause and effect. Kabbalistically, time is the distance between cause and effect. This was the new part for me. Not the space between now and then. Time is not the space between now and then. Because as I just gave you a couple quick examples, there's no space. No space between 20 years ago when they hurt us and now, because we're still resentful. So it's as if today they're saying or doing that very thing. So it's not in the past. Time is basically an illusion. It's just the way we measure cause and effect. Today we did something, tomorrow, next week, whatever, some point it shows up. Those of you who believe in reincarnation, it can even go over lifetimes. Okay, we'll do that in another class. Okay. So, if we're thinking now, cause and effect. Something comes and happens today to us. It's the effect of something we did some point in the past. Cause and effect. We set up a cause. Now the effect of that cause showed up today. Because we believe, and you don't have to believe, but we believe what the Kabbalists teach us, everything is cause and effect. There is nothing random, nothing accidental, nothing coincidental. There is no chaos. Boy, I thought I'd shock you guys. No chaos. Okay. Then, so the effect comes to us now, right? In the now. So whatever we did as we thought in the past, now it's showing up. Now we take an action on that effect. What are we doing now? In the now, we're setting up the next effect for what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. But whether it's dealing with the effect of what we've done or setting up the effect that's going to come, when are we doing it? You could say it. We're doing it in the now. We are feeling the event now. We are acting in the now. But we have the perception, well, that came from the past and is going to affect the future. No, but when tomorrow shows up, do we say, how are you tomorrow? Or we say, how are you today? Yeah, we have a crazy person here says tomorrow, but the rest of us abnormal people will say, how are you today? Because if I ask you, how are you tomorrow, even if you had heard that before, how would we be able to answer? How am I tomorrow? But you and I are learning, we're deciding. If I decide today and I do the actions today to set more light into motion, I reveal and release more light from my soul, then I've already set tomorrow as a better day. Whatever shows up, it's a better day than it would have been, because light will take away darkness. At the same time, for those of you who are newer, light will also show us the next blockage or the next mess we have to clean up. But either way, it's better than it was going to be, because we revealed more light. And light will always elevate us to the next level, So this is why here in the center, we make sure that people understand, as we're briefly talking about today, there's nothing. We can heal, change, transform, fix everything and anything. Whatever you believe, thousands of years ago, Adam and Eve did that terrible mistake and brought death, destruction, pain, and suffering into the world. So even you don't believe that we're all part of Adam and Eve and all that the Kabbalists teach, but even on that simple level. So what are you and I dealing with today? 2020. 2020? See, no time. 2022, what are we dealing? What are we facing? We're facing the mess that started with Adam and Eve, that we've all added to or taken some away from in our lifetime. Yeah, well, we got to think in a new way. We've got to keep awakening more consciousness. So we remember, if we're going to hang on to, if we hold on to our guilt, our shame, our fear, our ego, then that's going to block our light. And that's going to keep us in the same state. And then, like everything else, the same day will play out one day after the next, after the next, after the next. And we'll say, look, see, nothing changes. Nothing changes. They're not doing anything different. They didn't look at things differently. They don't agree with me now. Everything is about the outside. What about me? Did we change? Did we change? We're learning how to change, but do we? Or is everybody, the vast majority of people out there, still doing like Adam and Eve? I love that picture. Even if you just read the Bible literally, forget the Kabbalistic understanding and the meaning, etc. Adam and Eve sitting there with this entity that's opposing them, taunting them. Eat of the tree of knowledge. What's the big deal? Right? Eat of it. But God told you not to. No, God doesn't want you to be as smart as God. That's why God told you don't eat from it. So what happens? Eve takes a bite, gives it to Adam. Adam takes a bite. All of a sudden, guilt and shame. They run and hide. And then God, Adam, where are you? We're hiding, God. Why are you hiding? Well, we ate from the tree of knowledge and now we're ashamed. He says, why did you eat from the tree of knowledge? So here comes the great part. Adam doesn't say, well, I ate from the tree of knowledge. No, she, the woman you gave me, God, she gave it to me to eat. And then God, according to the Bible, looks at Eve and says, Eve, why'd you do that? Says, oh no, it wasn't me, God. It was that snake. The snake you put in the garden here. He's the one. So Kabbalistically, 5,782 years since then, we've learned not to point the finger at anybody else, right? We take full responsibility. Anything happens, we say, okay, why is it in my movie? What can I do to change? How am I going to transform? No, we're still pointing the finger. If they hadn't have said that, I wouldn't be hurt. If they didn't do that, I would be okay, right? If out there, doesn't even have to be in our personal life, out there in the world, if they, whoever they are, didn't say or do this, we'd be okay. No. You and I are the center of our universe. You and I are the cause of everything happening in our life. The effect comes so we can do something differently. What are you going to do differently? That's the question. And don't say, you know what? I'm going to dig deeper and I'm going to find who's really behind that person I used to think was the cause. I'm going to find who told them to do what they did that made me upset. Still pointing outside of you. You're still not looking to the one person. So for those of you who are new, think this way. Think back to things that have happened to you over and over again. And I think I've shared this story once, maybe more than once. I had a woman years ago when I was teaching in LA. She came in one of the one-on-one meetings, and she says, you know, for the past, whatever it was, 8, 9 years, 5 years, she's had, 10, 12 relationships, and every one of them cheated on her. So I'm thinking, okay, what do I tell her? How can I help her? And all of a sudden I got this download. And I looked at her, I said, you know what? You're right. You're right. It's all the nasty men out there. Because before you were born, God had a conspiratorial meeting to tell the souls of all the men you'd ever go out with that they should cheat on you. She looked at me like I was crazy. And I looked at her and I said, well, either that's the story or you're the only common factor in all those relationships. And if you believe cause and effect, like attracts like, then you got to ask yourself, what are you not changing that you keep attracting over and over the same thing? But then, of course, she, like most of us, would say, well, no, I thought I was looking at the guy better, more carefully the next time I started to date somebody. Made sure that they had a job, because this guy didn't have a job, and all those kinds of external factors. So she's changing the outside, not the inside. So, of course, it keeps repeating over and over and over again. I had a friend years ago, before I came to the center, every year had a new job. And I'm literally at least 10 or 11 different jobs in a little less than 10 years. Why? Because every boss they had was an idiot. The boss and the coworker didn't know what they were doing. They did stupid things. So quit the job, get another job. Oh, this job's better. Within a year, no, also idiots. Another job within a year, also idiots. Finally, they stayed in a job. 20 years, I forget what it was, whatever, and retired. The rest of the story is they didn't change. So why were they in that job for 15, 20 years? Everybody was still an idiot. But they realized if they kept changing jobs, they'd have no retirement. So they stayed in a job for 20 years for the retirement, even though everybody around them was still an idiot. Didn't get to the point of understanding, hey, what's the common factor? If you look at your life, who's the common factor in everything ever happens to you? Happened to you or happens to you now? Who's the common factor? Tough to say, isn't it? Take responsibility. I'm the common factor. Oh, and here I'm going to tell you, what do we say here? I'm a pure and perfect being of light, right? We keep acknowledging that. I am, you are, pure and perfect being of light. Why? Because the Creator created us that way. The issue comes, right? You can't use that and say, well, I'm perfect, so they're the bad ones. No, we are all perfect inside. The Creator put a piece of itself inside of us. The issue is, are we living into that? Are we manifesting our potential? Or are we manifesting all of our potential? Are we making an effort to manifest more every day? That's the question. How are you acting more light-like or more God-like? What was our affirmation, right? To behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. Greater. Doesn't mean we're not compassionate or kind, but we can always do more. That's what we got to ask ourselves. So you and I learned from Kabbalah 1, all the challenges in our life are there to point out how I can change. Not to point out who's at fault and why they're troubled. No, me. What can I change? So think about it. I had a student, grew up with terrible parents. Parents made them feel small, incapable, insecure, right? This, that, and other thing. Now, here's the irony. This person created a huge business, making lots of money. So you say, oh, must have overcome, right? All that they grew up with, thinking they're small and they're incapable and this, that. No. When we spoke one-on-one, they're still telling me, even with the big business, even being the head of this company or whatever, still the insecurity. Still felt like when they were a kid, a loser. A lot of money, big business, employees, etc., felt like a loser. So like we said in the beginning, if 30, 40 years ago, all the kids teased them or the parents made fun of them, loser, 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 and 40 or 50 years later, they're still feeling a loser, what happened to time? How come it didn't disappear? right? That feeling, especially when they made a business. If they were still struggling financially or health-wise or whatever, you'd say, okay, see, that's what their parents did to them. That's what the kids at school did to them. But if they're now successful, who's doing it to them? Who's still making them feel like a loser? Because they, like we said in the beginning, right? Mind over matter. They accepted they are losers. In their mind, they're still losers, even though successful. But with all the success, didn't take away the loser. Had one student in a similar thing, but came to the center, started to work on himself, change himself, start to acknowledge, I'm a pure and perfect being of light, start to awaken more of the light inside, start to see more of the miracles in their life, and started to make an effort from his side. Remember, our life, technically, spiritually, is only one way. It's me to you. It's you to everybody else. It's not me to you and you to me. Not truly on a spiritual level. It's what I do, it creates my life. So this student came to the point where they were able to look at their parents in their own mind and just beam light out of their heart and soul to their parents. I forgive you for what you did. I apologize what I may have done. I see you, I see the light in you, and I keep awakening that light. Well, meanwhile, by doing that, what happened to his own blockages? They start to disappear. Because darkness is the force of destruction, obstruction. Light is the repair material. So he starts sending light. He starts breaking his own veils, his own blockages of unworthiness, upset, anger, resentment towards his parents. He started to feel really good. He was shocked how fast his resentment, hurt, guilt, shame went away. And he had the good fortune to see about a month and a half before his mom passed from the world. She called him up and she says, I just want you to know I've always loved you. I always saw there was good in you. And I only said those bad things because I thought it would help you, move forward sort of thing. So him sending light and making a transformation in him put him in a different universe. It elevated him. And in that elevated state, his image, if you will, or his connection to his mother was on a higher level. Because his mother, even though she, by her behavior, let's say, was on a lower level, there's also the potential, like all of us. Pure and perfect being means wherever we sit, there's the rest of our pureness still in potential waiting. So when he moved up, he was now connected to that better aspect of his mother. So he saw it. He had that good fortune that she called him up and said, I love you, and this is what happened, and explained it and worked it out. So as we're sitting here, we've got to start thinking the same thing. What's holding us back? Where do we feel we're supposed to have more, be more, do more, etc.? And how can we see how we're holding ourselves back? Not how the world's holding us back. How can we also take this understanding and change ourselves so that we change our destiny? Unless, like we said, if a person wants to hold on to their guilt because it makes them feel good, they can hug their chaos all day for all this lifetime. The thing that we learn, that of course, when you first learn it, if it's new to you, you also want to just dismiss it. Can't really be such a thing as reincarnation. But if you understand cause and effect, then even over lifetimes, what we've done in our past life that we didn't fix is going to show up in the next life, and the next life, and the next life. So there is no escape from our removing our blockages. There is no escape. In fact, look at the world today. Why do you think all the chaos is going on in the world today? Because people are holding on to their chaos. As the Rav and Karen always called it, hugging their chaos. And what's the essence of chaos? Blaming everybody else, creating a separateness. I'm okay, they're doing it to me. I'm fine, it's their problem. Meanwhile, the person is suffering. But they get a little bit of relief because they have someone to blame until they need to find another person. It's like you take an aspirin. Take an aspirin, the Rav and Karen always emphasized. Years back, you used to hear the ads for aspirin. It's funny, now that I think about it, I don't really hear ads for aspirin anymore. It's every other kind of thing out there, but not aspirin. But anyway, years back, aspirin used to advertise for temporary relief of the pain of a headache. And the Rav would just smile and lambast and say, hello, wake up, temporary relief. That means, yes, a little bit of relief, and it's going to come back again. Take another aspirin, it goes away, and then it's going to come back again. Because it's only temporary. So the same thing, when we're pointing the finger and blame somebody else, it's temporary relief. Oh, I have someone to blame, so I don't feel so bad. Then when you walk away, or like we said, 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years, now you got to find someone else to blame because the pain has come back. The hurt, the internal stress is coming back. So how are we going to change it? So I want to give you a way to do it, but I need your help. Okay, I don't need your help. I need my help, you need your help. But here we're going to do it together because that's the power of community. So here, start like this. Think of something that happened to you more than 5 years ago. Something that bothered you, something that, hurt you, something that's still triggering you. Okay, think of anything, whatever comes to your mind, but at least 5 years ago. Now, in that situation, when you look back, think about as whatever happened to you or whatever was said, what was the emotion that woke up? And just give that a name. Fear, jealousy, anger, insecurity, whatever it may have been. And then look at the action you did in that moment. 99.9% of the time, it was based on whatever that emotion was. It was anger, maybe it was screaming. If it was insecurity, maybe it was, hiding and skulking away and like that. Who knows, whatever it was. But I want you to see it. This is 5 years ago. In anything since 5 years ago, since that incident, did you ever have a trigger that awakened the same emotion? May have been completely different circumstances, but did that same emotion ever show up? Okay. So then, could it only have been caused by what those people did in the incident you thought? If you're still having that emotional trigger, then it's got to be something you're carrying. And probably, unless you started to take classes in the center, probably the response that you did is similar to the first one that you were thinking of. It was something out of the fear, the anger, the insecurity, the jealousy, the judgment, whatever. Similar type of behavior. Again, different disguise, different, outside circumstances or appearance, like a different scenery, but it was still the same essence. Push them away, scream at them, put them down, make yourself feel temporarily okay. So then, again, and I know I'm saying it over and over again, because we got to keep saying it till we really get it from the head to the heart. Who is the center of every one of those experiences that emotion came up? Who's the only person who was in all of them? Me, myself, and I. So, do you want to change your destiny? Then at least stop pointing the finger outside. And at least point the finger where it belongs. As you and I learned from Kabbalah 1 forward, that parasitic voice that's in our own head, that sounds like our own voice, but it's the one that's telling us, you can't, you're terrible, you're not good enough, look at your mistakes, you're limited, you can't achieve it, it'll never change, all of that. That's the voice that we decided we needed to point out where we're not sharing enough, where we're not letting our light out. So then here's some steps I want to give you to get started. One, let's just remember, the past is here with you now. It didn't stay back there, as we've said today. If you're still feeling whatever the emotion was from all those incidences, then it's not past. So there is no past, present, and future. It's all here now. You have and have had many opportunities to transform that, to change the energy. We call it from receiving. Anger, jealousy, greed, ego are actions of receiving. They're energies of receiving. Because who are we thinking about? I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm insecure. It's all about me. And it's the desire to receive, as we call it, for oneself alone. Our work is to transform it. To take the energy that's inside that emotion, the light of the Creator, and then use it in its opposite that we're going to get to. The repetition that we say is from the past. Remember, it's only in the present. There is no past, because that's the trap of that voice in our head. If it's in the past, you can't do anything about it. Fourth consciousness. In the present, you can change everything. You can change everything. I don't want to give you all the details, but everything. Too involved. The Rav, I remember the first time I heard, how do you make up for murder? If somebody murdered somebody else, how can you make up for that? The Kabbalists have a way that on a truly spiritual that becomes a physical level, there is a way actually to make up for that. So I want you to think about anything that you are still feeling that's untransformed, to realize it can be fixed. You have to be willing to do the work. There is a technology, there is a way, because the light in our soul will repair everything. We just have to be willing to do whatever the work is that's going to make that happen. So let me just start you on the path. Think of whatever the emotion is that you had, and think of its opposite. What's the opposite of that emotion? That's what you've got to start injecting into your behavior. So like this, if you feel aggressive, the feeling is not the problem. You know, sometimes we don't want to acknowledge we have bad feelings because we're good people, right? We don't want to admit, yeah, I felt angry at them, I felt hurt, I felt resentful, etc. Because I'm so spiritual, I shouldn't feel anything bad. Well, go back and review last week's Spiritual Sunday. The emotion is not the problem. The emotion actually is our raw material to be able to unblock ourselves and let more of our soul's light shine out, and then experience the blessing of that light. We don't want to just shine light, we actually want to have the experience. That's why we came here in this world, to have the experience of all the good of the light. Not just to say, okay, I'm a spiritual person. So if you feel aggressive, something triggered that, pause, stop for a moment, and then think, how can I act with greater kindness? Whatever that means. And remember, these actions come with also the conscious thought, beaming a piece of light, a beam of light out of your heart and soul as you act kind. If you're feeling judgmental because something happened, pause and act with some action of understanding. Understanding, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they're just under stress. Think of the times that we've been that under stress, and we sort of let a few words or actions come out unthinkingly, uncaringly, right, insensitively. Or if you feel jealous, starting to feel jealous over whatever somebody else has or does or got. Pause. One, start to have gratitude. Be grateful for the things that you have. Instead of focusing on what they got, focus on what you have. And then the action, be happy for them. Send them light. I'm happy that you have whatever it is. I'm happy that you're improving your life. I'm happy that you're happier. Remember, when you walk away from that situation, how are you walking away? With more happiness, more joy, less chaos, less darkness, less blockage. And that's what we want, isn't it? We don't want to say, okay, I beat them in that situation, but then when I walk away, feel worse. No, I want to feel better when I walk away. So then we want to take every opportunity when those negative emotions are awakened to remember, as we will transform that through whatever the opposite action is, then we're going to walk away on a higher level. And even if you think that way, you want to get rid of the bad people in your life, not by running away from them. You raise your consciousness and they don't, like this. You just keep elevating, elevating, elevating. You're moving away from them. Because like will attract like, and opposites will repel. So if you're acting kinder and nicer and more light-like, and they're still holding on to their bad behavior, you're repelling each other. But if you're holding on to resentment because they acted out of anger, darkness and darkness will attract each other. That's why you still hold resentment, guilt, shame for years and years and years. Because like will attract like. Even across time, space, and motion. Even across lifetimes. So let's wake up today to our next higher level. Because I know many of you here, I know you for a while. Some of you I'm more familiar with, and I know the transformations you've gone through. But it's not enough. It's not enough, because God gave us 100%. Our job is to get to the 100%. So it's always more and more and more. And as we often speak about, as we grow, the challenge that's put in our head, that nasty voice, got to be more subtle. And that's why it's valuable. And if you think about it, the more you look back and you see you've already grown and the transformations you made, what was one factor in that was the unity being involved. Many of you come here and you learn. So you take a class, there's a group of people. You get involved in the community, there's a group of people. Like-minded people doing like-minded actions supports each of us. It's like the 1 and 1 becomes 10 or 12, and 10 plus 10 becomes 100 or 1,000. There's an exponential growth and transformation that takes place. So as we want to grow, we have to include more people. Even if it just means in our consciousness, extending your light to every person on earth to reach into their soul and access the light that the Creator put in their soul that's part of our soul. So let's think about, we don't want to let the opponent tell us in our head, it's too late. That's already past, it's gone, you can't change the past. Let's, instead of listen to the voice of the opponent, listen to the voice of your soul that's saying, you can change everything. You can restore everything. Because God made a perfect person and a perfect life. So there's nothing that can't be restored. We want to restore everything back to the way the Creator created it, Garden of Eden, our piece of heaven on earth. So we have to stay focused to live into our potential. When that negative thing is triggered, pause and say, no, the Creator has infused in me, implanted in me more kindness, more generosity, more compassion, more forgiveness, more tolerance, etc. Let me live into that. And then do the actions of sharing that will remove the covers of darkness. Allow the light that's always been there to be more and more revealed. And the beauty is, the more of us that do this, the faster we awaken it in everybody else. And the faster we awaken it in everybody else, the faster we end up living the life that in our imagination as we're going to sleep and we can see it. Our soul then can speak to us. You belong in heaven on earth. You belong in the Garden of Eden. The faster we remove the covers, the faster we will live that. And the faster we live that, we draw everybody else into it. And you want to end all the pain and suffering and chaos of the world? As we'll turn our chaos to order, we're affecting the world to do the same thing. And then that will allow us to live in a world where there is love, kindness, compassion, order, peace, and probably the best thing, joy and happiness all the time. God bless. Oh, thank you. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. So, as we do every week, one, I just want to thank you. Oh, I have an announcement before I forget it. For those of you who are familiar with the Sacred Zohar, we now have the Rav and Karen printing Sacred Zohar. So it's all the 23 volumes of the Zohar just in the Aramaic. It is a little bigger than the Pocket Zohar, so you can physically scan it. It makes it easier, but those are available now. And so as we do every week, I want to thank you, one, for the support that you give us, because this particular program can only continue because of your donations, your generosity. And the same thing, the center can only achieve its ultimate goal, which is to remove pain and suffering from the world with the help of you. So whatever your heart tells you you would like to give and contribute to reach out and touch 8 billion people on the planet, that's what we're going to do now. So I'm asking you, those of you online, I put the link to give. But let's just, those of you here physically, if you just hold whatever your offering is, hold it in your hands. We want to envision, remember, remind us that this money, this gift, is a vessel. It's a container. And right now we want to meditate that we're injecting love and light, our blessing, our gratitude into this offering. That through the projects of the center, spreading the wisdom of Kabbalah and the Zohar itself, that we can unite all people as the Creator created us to be united. That we can remove all the blockages. the divisiveness, the dark space, because we're activating the light of the Creator, the primordial force of every human being, to be expressed brighter and brighter, removing the space, removing the divisiveness, removing the darkness. That every human being on earth will be able to feel what their heart feels, what their soul feels, the oneness, the unity, the heaven on earth that's waiting for us to reveal by greater actions of love and kindness and transformation. And we put it out into the cosmos, knowing that it will come back the right way, the right time, for the greatest blessings, many times over. And together we say, Amen. Oh, yes. So now, as we do every week, we have, let me see. We have one of the 72 names of God. Let me show you here. Yud Lamed Hey. Those of you who are newer to Kabbalah, the Hebrew letters are not a language per se. They're like protons, neutrons, electrons, or photons. They are particles of the light of the Creator. They manifest in these shapes that we've called Hebrew letters. But the DNA of the soul of every person on earth is built with them. And that's why just by seeing them, scanning them, because the eyes are the window to the soul, we're allowing the energy from the endless world that channels through these nanoparticles of light to activate more of the light in our soul. So in this case, Yud Lamed Hey, that's the names. You don't have to know them, but so you hear it. Look at the shapes. Let them be engraved in your mind's eye as we'll enter into the meditation. It's to help us sweeten judgment, to bring out the mercy of the light from within. So as we said, if we feel angry, it gives us the strength and the power to do actions of kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and tolerance. So we turn the judgment to mercy, the chaos to order, and the darkness to light. Yud Lamed Hey. Okay. So I've asked you, those here and those at home, just sit comfortably in your seat, feet flat on the floor, hands comfortably in your lap. Take a few deep breaths to relax, breathing in through the nose. Hold the breath for a moment. Exhale through the mouth. Focus as you're breathing in that the air you're breathing in, which is life for the body, is also bringing in light for the soul, the breath of life. And as you hold that breath for the moment, you're allowing that light to awaken. More light, more purity from within. And as you exhale, letting go of the blockages, letting go of the stress, whatever tension, and just allow yourself to relax into the warm embrace of the light of your soul, the light of the Creator that fills the universe infinitely. Relaxing into the seat. Sense that light that's awakening inside you. Feel its radiance from inside you shining out. And let's think, each of us, one particular issue that's still blocking us, still disturbs us. And see it as a dark spot inside your being right now. And then let's envision above your head these portals of light, Yud, Lamed, Hey. And see there's a beam of light from the endless world shining down through those portals, Yud, Lamed, Hey. The infinite light of transformation, sweetening judgment, bringing on mercy. And now allow that light through the Yud Lamed Hey to enter through the top of your head. Illuminating even brighter light as it passes through your body from head to toe. Feel, know that a higher level of your soul's light is awakened, radiating out, expanding your sphere of protection. And now, envision that dark spot. Identify whatever the negative emotion you've been holding on to is. Think of its opposite, the light behavior that's hiding inside that darkness. And now from the depths of your heart and soul, let a beam of light shine through that darkness with the vibration of whatever your opposite energy is. Love, kindness, generosity, humility, forgiveness, tolerance, whatever. And see that beam of light passing through the darkness of that experience. And see that darkness dissipating. And more light radiating through you from head to toe. And let that beam of light go out to the heart and soul of every other person around you. Family, friends, acquaintances. See it in their heart and soul, awakening greater mercy, sweetening their judgment. And see for them a beam of light now shining out of their heart and soul through the darkness that they've been holding inside them, dissipating the darkness, revealing a greater illumination of their soul's light. And as it shines out to the people they're sending the light to, whoever was bothering them in whatever way. And just keep extending that light until you can see it shining to the heart and soul of every person on earth. A planetary light internet shining, connecting every person on earth with love, kindness, joy, peace. And as you filled your world with light, and every person in it awakened with light, take conscious notice, awareness of this greater, higher vibration that's pulsing through you. How much lighter you feel, how much more at ease and peace. Record this feeling, this sensation inside you, indelibly. And let's commit ourselves to keep growing and evolving in this. More and more light, more and more transformation, ultimately more and more unconditional love. Remember how good it feels now, that you can always draw back to this experience in that moment of challenge when you pause. Remember this vibration, this consciousness, so that you have greater strength, greater power to do the action of transformation. And together, let's take one more deep breath to anchor this in to heart and soul, and then slowly exhale and open your eyes. Thank you for joining today. I do want to share with you, if any of you would like maybe to have a one-on-one session for something along these lines, or some issue you have that you would like to speak personally, it is a service that I offer. Just Facebook me, let me know, and we can make those arrangements. In general, I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, and just share with me, as you've been sharing, some of your miracles, some of your transformation, or even some of your questions that we can answer here on Sundays. God bless. Look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for joining us. If you liked what you saw, subscribe to this channel that you'll be notified when we post new videos. Share the video with your friends, they can also benefit. And check out the website, www.kabbalah.com, that's Kabbalah, for hundreds of articles and classes. Wish you an amazing day, and God bless.